Hi, Brian Haberlin here, and just doing a little sort of anatomy of a cover. This is the cover for issue 4 of Lighthouse. So here's the essentially the black and whites. I have some tone in here, really just to convey depth in it. Things that have contrast come forward, things that don't have contrast go back. So if you ever want to push anything back, you just throw a little bit of a color and reduce the value of it, so it's not pure black. So we have that blue kind of throwing things back. And I'll show you in the color how that plays out. But essentially the idea was that this is, if you got the one on the left is one cover, the one on the right is another cover. If you get them and put them together, they kind of fit together as our combatants, Maria Vasquez and the evil pirate Congre. So like that's the one cover fully colored, and here's the other one. So they were worked on, of course, together. And we're going to go through some of the aspects of them. I have them grouped into two different groups so they're easy to move around. So a group is basically all the layers that you have in a Photoshop file all put in one folder, so you can easily just boom, okay, that's not in my way anymore, And then on Maria's side is down here, boom, and she's gone. So we can go ahead and check out kind of aspects of the different stuff. I'm going to go ahead and make that smaller. We'll look at Maria's side right now. When you're coloring something, one of the first things you get done after you either scan or digital or however you get your line art in the computer is lay out some flats. And flats are essentially, flat colors which allow you to, as you're working, quickly and easily do selections. Okay, boom, I got her hair, I can start rendering her hair. Boom, I've got the robot, I can start rendering the robot. You'll notice here that I grabbed the sword of the robot too. That's because the tolerance up here was set high enough and these colors were close enough to being similar that 32 was basically enough for me to grab both. If I bring it down to 5 and do it again, you'll see I just get the robot. The other important thing to realize when you do flats, he said doo-doo, is that you don't want them to be anti-aliased. So you have pure color next to pure color, because otherwise you get a little halo around stuff. Now, usually line art will hide that, but sometimes it doesn't. So it's important that flats are not anti-aliased. Anti-aliasing is like when you do a selection here. I'll show you, since you can know. So right now there's an anti-aliasing on here, okay? I'm going to go ahead and just fill it with a yellow. If I zoom in close, you'll see how the edge is kind of smooth, kind of is a little bit, not pure yellow, it's a little yellow and a little bit of that gray too. So if I was having all my flats like that and I go back to select them, you'll see, now if I go ahead and fill this with color just so I can illustrate the point, you'll see there's a little bit of an edge of another color around the outside, okay? So that's why we do the other way, bump, 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 and bump, okay. So flats are the first thing we get done, and then we start going into color, bump, 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 bump. Now, Jared Van Dyke does all the heavy lifting on the colors. I come in and usually do a pass or in twinks and stuff after he's gotten to stuff, but he is one of the most amazing colorists in the industry, and from a guy who has quite a rep being a colorist, myself speaking, that's high praise. He really does beautiful additions to things that I don't really think of sometimes. And that's the good part about the collaborative process of comics when it's working as it should work, is everybody brings a little something else to the party, and something that you don't really necessarily even think of. I mean, I wouldn't have thought of this texture here on the robot. Works good to me, and there's many more examples of that I can show you. I mean, a beautiful shine on the gun here. If we look at just the color of the piece, so the line art goes, you can either have line art above color or below color in multiply mode. This is the layers mode, right? Right now, Let's see where Jared has his color. Jared has a lot more. Usually when I color stuff, I don't have this this many layers, but he's been throwing quite a few on. So this is it without the line art on it. This way you can see all the little bits and stuff. And you also see too, Jared usually throws down some painted analog textures, like from canvases or acrylic paintings or whatever that he has. So that's where he gets a lot of textures that he'll throw onto a piece, going over colors. Like you'll see this beautiful piece here and some other stuff like that. Put the line art back on. Oops, that's not the line art. That's the line art. And all you people who are want to really do this is like, make sure you label these layers. We were being lazy because we worked together for so long. So that's her. So you'll see like the color, and then there'll be different effects that kind of go over it that change aspects of it. So if we look at, for example, let's see, these are all, you'll see these little bits with black squares on them. It's going to be up here. So these are going to be effects. So you see the lights on the robot? They're in screen mode. And screen will take anything that's black, make it invisible. Whatever color will make it a sort of a brighter object of it. It's great for special effects. Usually a combo of screen effect and then an overlay over the top of that is a good 1-2 punch when you're doing nice effects. If you want to see what this effect looks like, without that, when in normal mode, that's what it looks like in normal mode. So see, all the black disappears and we just get the color of the effect at the end of the day. So that's in normal mode and then in screen mode. He threw a nice little stroke around here. This is like an old illustration technique. Like you'll see, you know, if you can harken back really far, but Norman Rockwell used to do a lot of these little stroke things. So it's just a nice little double stroke. That really kind of sets it off too, where normally it would just be, you know, the image next to something, and it kind of loses a little something. More of these kind of lines, whether they're in color or not in color, can have a nice effect. Let's see what I got down here. So this is just the background color bleeding in. So I matched that up. Now you'll see here, that's the original color I got from Jared. He likes going dramatic, and he likes going whatever. But I've always seen so many color covers kind of print badly when you start really kind of going into the darks. So I lightened up everything, and you'll see how I really lightened up everything in the foreground mostly, and to the left of the characters, which kind of brings us towards the middle of the piece, but it also gives us a nice sort of dramatic light source as well. And then of course I did that on the other side as well. Let's look at Congre real quick. So I'm going to put that down and let's go to Congre. So Congre is the same sort of setup. You know, we'll have the color. That's him without the line art, and you can see how there's all this, you know, textural work in there that gives us kind of a little extra sort of detail, you know, without you really going in and rendering all those little bitty strokes and stuff. You know, that's the benefit of working with analog and digital at the same time, is analog can get you really a lot more bang for your bucks. I think on my Facebook page I actually have a coloring technique that we use sometimes, where we actually bring the piece out into the real world, analog world, and just with gouache and stuff do rough brush strokes on and scan that and put that back over our digital, and it really gives you an interesting hodgepodge there. So you'll see here too, this is where we've gone through and knocked out some of that color in the back. Remember I told you how it pushes things back? So this is without that color haze pushing that stuff behind him back, and you see now it's right on top of him. It'd be like, you know, right next to his head. By throwing a little color on here, you can see how it's not. Really this whole cover is about, like in issue 4 we have the hunt going on, and this is where they've given Vasquez a chance to survive, but all the pirates are going to be hunting her, and she has to somehow survive for long enough that the she either wins or she loses at the end of the day. And I'm not going to go into it any more than that. But issue 4 is a heck of an issue. And if you haven't gotten 1 through 3, you can still pick those up at your comic book store. Here's one more coloring technique hint up here. So I have the image as well completely flattened up here. And you'll see I did some color tweaks. So you notice over on the right for Maria. So this is in overlay mode, and overlaid almost it's like a great sort of glaze, like an oil painting. It'd be a glaze or like almost another light source. So you see I've done this. If I put it into normal mode, it's this sort of, and this, I'm going to bring this back up to 100%. That's what it looks like. So it's really kind of almost painting with light at the end of the day. I'm going to put it into overlay. You'll see full blown, it's kind of a little too strong, but it really looks like a warm light now is hitting the image from left to right. That was a little too much, so I would just go down to like about 45 is where we had it about before. But I think it really gives us a nice little extra pop. So we still have the cools going on, but now there's more warm to separate her in the foreground. And this will be Lighthouse 4 out next month. FOC is on Monday, so if you want your retailer to make sure they got it, bug them now. Thanks for your time.